So when I was still living in Brooklyn, this is going back to early 2000s, mid 2000s, I was a solo performer, the owner of a one-person company, a single woman living in a one-bedroom apartment. And I looked at my life and I said, I gotta find like a group activity because I'm gonna become a cat lady and I'm allergic to cats, so this is gonna be really bad. Like, it's not gonna work for me. So I had played violin as a kid in the orchestra, and I'd played it sort of like haphazardly, music upside down. I was good enough to get by to a certain degree. And I joined my community orchestra, and I was there for about 5 years. And I heard people saying, I'm playing the second violin section, which is, there's two sections if you're not an orchestra person. First violin played the melodies and the leads, and second violin sort of go boom, and I loved that. It seemed to have a low risk threshold. And I said that I had taken the Hippocratic oath of music, do no harm, so play really quietly. But I started hearing people say things like, well, this isn't the way we played this in 1971. I don't want to change. And I thought, is that what, is that my future? Do I want to be that person? Probably not. So I started playing along with the radio, looking for forms of music. And I stumbled across country and bluegrass, which I'd never heard. And I started telling people in the orchestra, I think I do this other thing. And they're like, you've lost your mind. It was as if I'd come in with a drug problem or a severe mental imbalance. They were horrified. They wanted to get an intervention together. They thought I'd lost it. But as I started doing this, I got on Craigslist and I thought I'd be crazy and join a string quartet, but instead I found this girl group that was looking for a fiddle player, and none of us knew anything. And we rehearsed in a studio called the Sweatshop in Brooklyn, and this place was hilarious. It was so, it's still there, it's probably fabulous, but you would go down like a cobweb-ridden staircase to a dank, dark hallway. It was like BYOT, bring your own toilet paper. This place was like really minimal. And we'd go down there and rehearse, and we had this great time, but none of us knew anything about plugging in our instruments. I didn't know the instrument I was using, which was technically an electric violin, wasn't meant to play out with. You could only rehearse. It had no quality sound. I didn't know about plugging into an amplifier. We went to play our first gig, and I didn't know about a monitor, which is, if you see musicians with a speaker on the floor, that's the thing that lets a musician hear how they sound. So I didn't have one of those. I didn't know how I sounded. I didn't know my instrument was out of tune. I didn't know it was unfit. And we go to play our first gig, and we're all like BFF. We're talking about going on tour, and by the end of the gig, no one's talking to me. And I failed miserably. And that's not why I fled New York for Colorado. I actually made an active choice to move. They didn't run me out of town. They didn't. But, so I get to Colorado and I'm like, I'm never going to do this again. And I answer another Craigslist ad, and I thought it said wanted fiddle player not to play out at gigs. And so I go to this house, I play, and they're like, oh, you passed the audition, our first gig is in a month. So now I'm a member of a band that plays in bars. And it turns out to be the most fun thing in the world. It's like, all of a sudden, I'm like a rock star. I'm like shredding my bow. I'm like getting to get dressed up. I'm getting to wear, in orchestra you wear black and you have to be quiet. And this is about being as loud as possible. And over the intervening 5 years, between then and now, I've actually learned how to play this instrument. And all of a sudden I realized I actually play guitar. I'd forgotten about that. And I figured out how to sing. I'm writing songs. And so now I'm telling a novel. I'm reading my novel aloud with original songs. I'm about to cut my first CD. And this is awesome. It's like I put myself through a training. I made a lot of mistakes along the way. I've had the most fun of my life. Like, I'd rather go out and play some music than go to a party and try and make small talk. I'd rather talk through the music. And I'm having the most fun that a person could ever have. Now I'm learning how to refine that product and do with it what I want to do. In the meantime, I don't know, I've played a lot of really fun gigs.